Okay, so this lesson is 15-4 and it is about using measures of variability. If you will go up to your title of your notes, and we need to make a note here that measures of variability are types of measurements that you take that say how varied or spread out your data is. And the things that we've learned about in 15-1 in particular that we use to measure variability include range and even interquartile range. Both of these measurements measure how varied or spread out the data is. Our lesson yesterday was about measures of center. That measures the center of the data, like median or mean. Measures of variability measure how spread out the data is, like range or interquartile range. We can use the range or interquartile range to compare two sets of data. So like here we see that we have two classes, and this is their number of doodles on last night's homework. We have the same number of doodles, so you can count all the dots, same number of students, and we have the same number of doodles that's most common, like 3 was most common in this class and 3 was most common in that class. That would actually be the mode. But we have different ranges. So this one's highest number of doodles was 5 and the lowest number of doodles was 2. 5 minus 2 makes a range of 3. So the spread of these dots, or the spread of how many doodles people made, goes all the way from 5 down to 2, so there's a range of 3. It's spread out 3 wide. In this class, the highest number of doodles created was 6 and the lowest number of doodles created was 1. So 6 minus 1 makes a range of 5. There's a wider spread of the number of doodles, and so there's more variability. We have more people doing similar numbers of doodles here, and there's more spread out answers or number of doodles here.
So, all of you in this room are what we call the indoor group. You all will stay in here and answer the mood questionnaire indoors. Get it? Great. Now, where is the outdoor group, I wonder? Oh, right. I'm guessing they are outdoors. Okay, I'm going out there to talk to that group for a minute, but I'll be right back to check on those questionnaires. Okay? Great.
A psychologist is studying how spending time outdoors affects people's moods. He surveys 2 samples of people chosen at random. What is the range of mood levels for each sample? Make a comparative inference about the population based on the range. So we want to find the range of the outdoor group and the range of the indoor group. So one thing I don't really like about these bar graphs is that they're not super clear about what number goes with what bar, but it's like the number in front of the bar goes to it. So like this is 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So the bar that you're looking at is actually measured by the number that's like right there in front of it. It's just kind of weird how they did that to me. But if we're looking at this green group, so this bar, our highest mood level rating, was at a 10. Minus our lowest mood level rating was actually at a 1. Okay, because the bar is kind of like right behind the number that it's going with. So this bar goes with 2 and this bar goes with 1. So we'd say 10 minus 1 is a range of 9. Okay, and on this one, the highest mood level rating was an 8. This bar goes with 8. Minus the lowest mood level rating was, again, a 1. So for the outdoor group, our range of mood levels ranged 9, all the way from 10 down to 1. In the indoor group, our range of mood levels went from 8 down to 1, and so we had a range of 7. So we want to make a comparative where we compare the two groups. Inference, that's an educated guess, about the population based on our answer for range. So, okay, so if we look at our ranges, the outdoor group had a greater range than the indoor group. Well, what's that mean? Does it mean that the mood level was better in the outdoor group? Not necessarily. The range talks about how varied or how spread out the mood range was. So the outdoor group had more variety in their responses of mood level. Like their answers were more spread out, all the way from 10 all the way down to 1. Whereas the indoor group was more grouped together. It was still pretty spread out because the range isn't that different from 9 to 7, but it was a little more grouped together and not quite as spread out. A researcher is studying the effects of owning a cell phone on the number of hours people sleep. What is the range of hours slept for each group? Make a comparative inference about the population based on range. So we'd find the range of each group. Remember, the range is the largest number minus the smallest number. And remember, these bars go with like the number that's in front here. So I really wish it was right underneath, but this bar goes with 8, this bar goes with 7, this bar goes with 6, and this bar goes with 5. It's kind of weird how they did that, but it'll be fine. So the range is the greatest number, which was 8 hours, minus the smallest number, which was 5 hours. So we'd say the range was 3 hours. In this group, the greatest number of hours slept was 10, minus the smallest number of hours slept was 5. So we'd say the range was 5 hours. Now, one thing you might even notice based on some things we talked about yesterday is we do have probably what we would consider an outlier here. You know, all the other results are grouped together and this one's kind of off by itself. That could affect our answers. So we just want to keep it in mind as we consider what we're looking at. So we can make a statement based on a range, it says in the directions, to make a comparative inference based on the range. If we think about this range being 3 hours and this range being 5 hours, it seems as though the cell phone group had less variability in the number of hours they sleep. We could also write this as they were more consistent, meaning that they all slept about the same number of hours, 5, 6, 7, 8. Really, a lot of them in the 6, 7, 8 range. And then for our no cell phone group, we had more variability because we had some all the way at 10, some all the way down at 5, but we had a big group here in this range too. But there's more variability in the no cell phone group, and there is less variability in the cell phone group. They're more together, they're more consistent. A psychologist is studying how spending time outdoors affects people's moods. So we're back to the indoor group and outdoor group situation. He surveys 2 samples of people chosen at random. What is the interquartile range of mood levels for each sample? Make a comparative inference about the population based on IQR. So the IQR, remember, is the 3rd quartile minus the 1st quartile. Well, if you remember how to read a box plot, this here is our minimum. This is our maximum. The middle part of the box is our median. The left of the box is our 1st quartile, and the right of the box is our 3rd quartile. So our 3rd quartile is 8, minus our 1st quartile is 6. So our interquartile range is 2 for the outdoor group. In the indoor group, our 3rd quartile is 6, our 1st quartile is 2. So to get our IQR, we would do Q3 minus Q1, 6 minus 2 gives us an interquartile range of 4. So our statement we can make would say, just based on looking at the IQR, the indoor group seems to have more variability in the middle part. So ignoring the people that scored low, ignoring the people that scored really high, just looking at the middle actual 50%, remember this is divided into 4 equal parts, so the middle 50% here inside the box is spread more than the middle 50% of the outdoor group. So again, when you ignore the people that scored really low and you ignore the people that scored really high, the people kind of in the middle scored pretty consistently in the outdoor group. They scored around a 7, a 6, 7, or 8. But in the indoor group, if you ignore the high and you ignore the low, the middle people, they scored more varied. They scored anywhere from a 6 all the way down to a 2. So the indoor group seems to have more variability in the middle part, with the people that gave scores in the mid-range. All right. Back to the cell phone study. We're studying the effects of owning a cell phone on the number of hours people sleep. What is the interquartile range of hours slept for each group? Make a comparative inference about the populations based on the IQR. So we're looking at the interquartile range, which would be the 3rd quartile minus the 1st quartile. Our 3rd quartile is always on the right side of the box here. So looks like it is about 7 1/4 or 7.25, because right here would be 7.5, so that's 7.25, minus our 1st quartile, which is always right here on this edge of the box, which looks to be about 5. So we'd say that our interquartile range is 2.25. Okay, in our group of people that did not have a cell phone, our 3rd quartile looks to be 8 minus our 1st quartile, which looks to be, let's see, that would be 6.5 in the middle. So this would be 6.75.